Good morning. Welcome to Hot Topics. I almost spelled that with an X when I put it in the thing, but I thought that would be a little weird. It's two sessions, actually, and we're going to start with John giving us the latest news in the AC in the industry from the ACEC local and national perspective, and then we're going to have a fireside chat without the fire between talking about the design build and how that's going locally, especially a active firm right now. So John Rathke is going to start us off. John's he serves the Midwest Transportation Business Unit leader for Mead and Hunt, and is a principal and a vice president, Wisconsin-based AEC firm with offices nationwide. John's professional career has spanned over 30 years and includes overseeing the development of numerous bridge and roadway projects in Wisconsin and the Midwest. He has served as the chair of ACEC Wisconsin Board of Directors and has served as the chair of ACEC Wisconsin Transportation Steering Committee and the ACEC Transportation Leadership Committee here in Wisconsin. He's on the WisDOT Transportation Consultant Advisory Committee as well as the ACEC Wisconsin Government Affairs Committee. So I think he's covered pretty much every committee that ACEC has. And because of that, he's the 2024-25 chair-elect and will be the 2025-26 chair of ACEC National. John lives in Green Bay with his wife Julie. They have two adult children. Jordan and Jacob live in Portland, Oregon, and Madison, Wisconsin, respectively. And John, go ahead.
Thank you. So just real briefly, here's the agenda of what I'm going to talk about today. First, we're going to go through some national advocacy that ACEC has done, and then head to the state level at Wisconsin and go through some of that. Then it comes down to, it's like a three-part thing here, because it comes down to advocacy and then also comes down to education, business education, things that are put together specifically to help firms grow, thrive, succession planning, business education, to do well and be able to then extend your firms to hand that down to the next generation. And with that, then there's the leadership training, the leadership development programs that we have and business education programs. Then finally, because we have the design build folks here, I'm going to just talk briefly about the Research Institute and the landmark study that they did on design build consulting specifically, and came out with some recommendations for the owner's side, the DOTs around the country, as well as consultants on best practices, things to look out for, so that as we, especially in Wisconsin, start moving into the design build world that's been going on across the entire country for a while, what are the things that you need to do to actually prosper in that, and then the experiences that most firms have had with it, which in many cases, there's quite a few cases as the projects get bigger, there's usually more negative experiences. And a lot of this is related to risk transfer, risk management, contracting, and partnering. Quite honestly, in design build, it's the relationship between the contractors and the designers and the long-standing relationship that mostly basically points to a successful design build project. And it's the lack of relationships that actually ends up in the other direction. So there's more seats up front here if you guys want to sit down. I'll pause. Sorry. All right, so here's the state advocacy support that ACEC National provides for all the, we call them MOs, member organizations across the country. And a lot of it is, what can make us strong, and then also to support our engineering industry. And that's all the way from advocating on infrastructure funding, the QBS, the contracting out study that we did with New York University, even the design build study that we've done recently. A lot of information guidance on tax services, legal issues, occupational licensing reform. This is all pushed into every state to help all you guys out here run your firms and to hit those landmines that are always coming up and popping up like whack-a-mole sometimes in our industry, right? And then the model legislation on QBS, pushing for QBS across the country. And then I'll talk about the design build study and then just design build in general. And then the advocacy with state and federal agencies, there's the state coordination assistance. It's like if you have a problem in Wisconsin, how did they solve it in like Delaware or New York or across the country. And so share that information across the board. So, and then work with FHWA, state DOTs, especially on FAR enforcement. And then finally, the Minuteman Fund. Wisconsin was a participant in this just recently on the duty to defend and indemnification legislation that just went through the House and the Senate. The governor still has to sign it, and I'll cover that a little bit later. But that is really important for especially small firms and DBE firms of not having that onerous contract provisions within your contract on public contracts. So it's really important as we work across the country and get those out of our contracts. So national advocacy, there is this situation that's developing, the lawsuit that is basically challenging the constitutionality of the DBE program across the country. So what we are doing with ACEC right now is closely tracking that legal challenge and then looking for scenarios of helping firms handle that post if that actually takes ends up being successful. So that's basically what we're doing right now, just closely tracking it. We're also having basically committees that are working on it to look at, well, what can we do if this is actually successful? And also we do have Colette Holt. She is actually doing presentation. She's an attorney. She's advising DOTs and firms on these matters. She actually had this presentation in ACEC Illinois recently, and recently in Delaware DOT after the lawsuit took effect. And what we did too is we have our committees. So everything that we do nationally is to get member engagement, member involvement, and provide that across a wide spectrum. So we do have a diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging committee. And then the Transportation Committee actually had a brainstorming session on this particular topic of how firms can navigate the future if, in fact, this program and this legislation is successful, this lawsuit. And it's basically the set-asides and goals that are race neutral and gender neutral, making sure there's still set-asides that can help small firms grow. Also pointing out the workforce shortages and capacity limits that we have. Many of the DBE firms have real specialties that they do. There's still that space in the consulting world to play within that. And having extra workforce and actually capabilities is one way that can be done. Also, state agencies, local agencies, to consider other incentives to facilitate startups and work towards that so that you can actually help the smaller firms start up. And then adjust contracting and project delivery strategies so that they aren't all large projects or smaller projects that smaller firms can actually take part in. So that was some of what they came up with. And recently we did send a letter of support. ACEC National, this was in October 2022, and it's to actually help out the DBE firms with an increase in the personal net worth cap, basically to align the DB size standards with the SBA standards to start making this a national effort, and then more efficient interstate certification of firms. Another one of those that's important, so that it's not all the states are different, and then you have to change what you're doing depending on what state you have, and then the exclusion of the retirement assets from your personal net worth for your owners. Here in Wisconsin, basically they have ramped up the number of engagements with the DBE firms, and so they got the 3 partnership meetings with WSDOT. They have also the TIC, our monthly TLC meetings, and the biennial partnering meeting, and then they're all basically designed for additional DOT interaction. And then in the quarterly meetings, the partnership meetings, they have the 10 or 15 minutes to introduce themselves as far as DBE firms, talk about what they do so that there's more exposure across the other consulting firms as well as WSDOT. So if there's any feedback on that, be happy to hear that. And then recently the development of the partnership with the Milwaukee Metropolitan Storage District, and that's simply to promote the small business, women business, disadvantaged businesses, and have that partnership with MMSD for more utilization of those firms. And then this is the big one, the indemnification and duty to defend legislation, to get that out of our contracts, our public contracts. Other states have been successful, and Wisconsin, by going out, getting a grant, and also to take advantage of the basically videos that we created on the national level to provide information to agencies, to consultants, to understand what all of this means. And not everybody even understands what indemnification in our contracts, what it is that they're asking us to agree to, and also the duty to defend. So those two national, if you look out there, you can YouTube it. Very good, instantly answers what it means that they're trying to have us do. Any questions? Going so far? Okay. So I want to do, are we on track? Okay. So just next, just a brief information about ACEC National in itself. If many of you don't know, it's basically 6,000 firms, give or take a few hundred there. It changes. Roughly 600,000, that's how I do it, I just round up. And basically this is how many firms, how many people are in the organization. It's 52 states across the whole country. And we have one of the biggest PACs, political action committees in the nation. And that's also to affect and watch and influence legislation as it's coming down the line. And then this is ACEC today. The reason I show you this is, as far as small firms, disadvantaged firms, all firms, there is a ton of things that we try to do, and it's all to strengthen your firms for your business to continue on, and including the trusts that were put in place to provide opportunities for small firms to be able to have business insurance, life insurance, health insurance, and retirement. These trusts are actually very important for many firms because they couldn't afford it otherwise. That's why it was put together. And then I'll talk about the Research Institute a little bit later. And then right now I'll talk about the coalitions and forums. And these are really, they're ways for firms to be able to get information, to talk amongst other firms, engagement, and then also learning for your staff. So forums, they're organized by resource functional areas. They have roundtables, in-person meetings. This is HR, this is IT, this is marketing, legal. It's all put together so that your employees can actually learn from others and best practices, best ways to do this. Business. Coalition, same way, organized by practice areas and firm size. Same thing. It's that collaboration. It's the ability to share information. It's the ability to get education to strengthen your businesses. And with that, leadership development, all firms, basically succession planning, the ability to take your young staff, train them, move them into the future leaders. It goes all the way from the early development all the way to the end. The Senior Executive Institute, including the business of design consulting. It's basically turned engineers into business people. We're all formally trained in engineering. The business part is something that gets learned as we go. So that's part of that. This is just want to show you this simply because this is the voluminous work that goes on to provide education for firms of all size, small and large, on everything that affects us as engineering firms. And it's quite extensive. It includes webinars online and then classes themselves. There's live on-demand webinars, online education that specifically you can get to it. The webinars are basically when you can get to it. The online classes are obviously education that you receive while you're when it's going on. Then they got the 4 to 8 week courses That's basically in project management, to help your staff with that. Publications from contracts to published titles to market briefs. What we're really trying to do is we're just trying to strengthen everything we do and also diversify across the board. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I don't want to beleaguer it, but it's voluminous. There's even model contracts that you guys can have access to help you run your businesses. So next, so we're going to talk about the Research Institute. Basically, this was created so that we could be thought leaders in the country, and it's provide our firms a source of knowledge and thought leadership. Instead of hoping for the best, we just end up really understanding and really do some research. Good, thanks. Appreciate that. I thought you were just leaving. I thought, boy, this is getting boring, and everybody's walking out. Okay. How are we doing so far? We're good on time, and does everybody still think that this is important? You want me to cover something over again that I just did? You're like, please, God, no. All right, here we go. So the Research Institute, the reason I brought this up here, it's going to segue into the design build. And the Research Institute was created basically with the vision of leading the source of knowledge and thought leadership, instead of guessing and hoping and wondering, to provide actually content and information and research that actually applies to our businesses and actually is useful information to all of our firms. And to provide that knowledge back to your firms so that we can actually prosper in the future. And this is industry-wide trends. This is anything related to business, the business of consulting engineering. These are some of the recent research and thought leadership topics that they've uncovered and worked on, including even transportation funding. There's a quarterly, if any of you have filled it out, but there's a quarterly engineering business sentiment survey. We always put that out, like, how's business? How's it look? What are we going to look like in 20 years or 5 years or next year? And that's very, very telling for us to look at it and say, okay, the engineering sentiment is good, or it looks like it's waning. And so then we can look at, and then we can also report that to decision makers. And then the QBS study, very important, especially for states that don't follow it. There's still a few out there. And then the impact of design build. That is what, I'll just give you a little bit of information on that. And then we also have the future of engineering roundtables. What we're trying to do right now is we're trying to figure out, what's the firm of the future going to look like? When you got technology, you have labor issues. How is our firms going to look? And then all the impact of legislation and funding and what have you. So that is actually ongoing right now. And the design build state of practice was a landmark study that examined design build, because design build was primarily pushed or worked through with DBIA, and we at ACEC really hadn't done a lot with it other than try to provide information for our firms. And so we undertook this simply to understand what's going on with design build in the industry, what kind of issues are out there for firms, owners, and it really highlights the recommendations for engineering firms that are participating in the design build program, and I'm just going to cover a few of those today. It's like a 44-page document. You can always get it from ACEC National if anybody wants to see it. I have it on my laptop too, but this was actually done in partnership with the University of Colorado. So it isn't research that we just came up with. It was research that was done academically. And it was in 3 steps: firm-based data, had all the firms send in their information, their experiences with design build, did it go good, did it go bad? Then also why, and try to figure out the why it went bad or good. And then project performance data, and then interview findings. So it's like taking the whole thing of all of our members basically reporting how it was, how the experience was, but also looking at it from the actual data. What did they actually really look like when these things were ultimately completed. And then we actually interviewed 18 people, 18 teams, I guess we could call it, just to really dive deep into, okay, these ones went well, these ones didn't. What's the reasoning? What happened to it, you know? So, still on time? You guys good? Okay. Here we go. There's a recommendation to the owners. That's what they came up with. What you're going to see a lot in this is risk transfer, risk, who's taking the risk. But one of the big things is that the state agency actually selects projects that aren't going to have a problem, especially with delivery while you are working on the project, right? So that's hazmat, that's real estate, that's utilities, all the things that can delay a project. You don't want that to happen in a design build project, simply because those things need to go from 30% to construction. And if you have any problems like that, as an owner, there are likely going to be problems with litigation and claims and lawsuits down the line. Contract review, very important, that the agencies have templates that worked well in the past that are specific to design build and not try to mix the two. The big thing with agencies is understanding and having a group of people that understand design build, design bid build. Completely different worlds, right? And you guys will go through that. Yep. Completely different. And then insurance, it's also having the owner understand and talk with design build teams on the insurance requirements so they aren't onerous to the design build team, and especially to consultants. You know, the contractors, the overall cost is about 10 times what the engineering fees are. And so then that risk that we take commensurate with that overall risk exposure. And that includes even owner protective professional indemnity to try to reduce the risk on us as consultants as we move forward with these. And so that for the owners, so that we still have design build in our toolkit going forward, because if the legal challenges are so great for us as engineering firms, you're going to find fewer that are actually going to do it. So, and then there's the partnerships and project approach. Like I say, it's got to be a unique program. We have that in Wisconsin. They have that in other states, but in states that they didn't, it created a problem. Here's the design build team, which you guys will be talking about. There's that early engagement with the owner as to that risk sharing between that design build team and that owner, because we're all at risk when we do these. There's the contract risk review. It's for you as consultants to go through and have a policy to actually literally get into these things and really look at them and make sure that you are, everybody's in agreement with the risk that you're going to take when you undergo this, and that you have these contracts that actually even provide that go and no-go. Instead of, the problems come a lot of times when, yeah, we should do this, and next thing you know, your team wasn't really set up to do it. And then that creates a problem. So you have to have that within your company. That's in this report. This is just a brief part of that. Then there's the insurance for design firms. That's another aspect. That's a big deal in design build and understanding that. And then the project-specific professional liability policies, and that's on really large ones, large projects, to make sure you're covered and make sure you don't have a situation that could take your company down, quite honestly. So with that, I actually did it in not too bad. Thank you. We got to make sure you fill out your evaluations. These guys are up next. Fireside chat. And then if you want any more information, I just put my email on the bottom there. And I can certainly share information with you guys. So with that, you're it.
Any questions for John before we? I'll run over there you go, Don. I'm going to bring the microphone over to you.
Don Miller with OES. John, I think I'm pretty sure you guys provide this, but we're ACC members in Wisconsin and Illinois, and we do work in both. And we know that the wage disparity is quite significant between Wisconsin folks and Illinois, and we try and become better educated on that, and also talk with our staff about that, because one guy over here in Wisconsin is making a lot less than somebody down in Chicago. And do you guys provide? I think you do. Do you guys provide some wage studies in the states or that kind of thing?
So I haven't seen one in a while. They used to do that. I think the issue with it sometimes is when you do that and you provide that information across the board, is there some issues with that, with collusion and what have you? Price fixing. Yep, exactly. So. Yeah, we're aware of it. We have, as far as my company, we see that all over the place, too. And I think it's just the natural part of as consultants. So it hasn't been anything we've taken up nationally. Anybody else? Question? Good.
Okay.
Really good. There's a lot of good information there.
Okay, now I'll pass things off, probably almost physically, to Andy Kowski. I think everybody knows Andy, but Andy's with HNTB and has served several roles since he graduated in 2004 with his bachelor's from University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. He's currently in the Milwaukee office with HNTB, Wisconsin Office Traffic Operations Group Director. God, that's a long title. But so Andy's going to take over.
It's an old bio. I'm not doing that anymore. I'll get right to it. So Design Build is here in Wisconsin. We just completed a box culvert reconstruction in the Northeast region. We're in the middle of building the Lone Rock Bridge in the Southwest region. Meeting Hunt's on board now as the program manager. Helped WISDOT start 3 new design build projects, some bridge rehabs up in the Wausau area, 3 bridge reconstructions in the Cranberry interchange just northwest of here, and then a larger project in Jefferson County, Southwest region, where the I-94 bridges over the Rock River and the Crawfish River will be reconstructed, a big increase in profile. There's flooding issues back in 2009. So design build is here, and then so this idea came up because Rosalind, Kim Lobdell from KL, and myself, we were in the Southeast region DBE stakeholder call, and somebody asked, like, how do DBEs get involved on the contracting side? How do DBEs get involved in the consulting side with design build? And we had a short chat on that call, and then afterwards, Kim and Rosalind, like, why don't we have this chat at the DBE conference? So here we are. And then we're lucky to have Jake Gregerson here from Kramer, Tom DeHaven from HNTB, design build experts. I'll give Jake his bio. Jake has hands-on experience working on complicated major structures over water. He recently completed construction of the Savannah Arc Bridge project that required detailed construction phasing and sequencing work over the Mississippi River. This required detailed planning and knowledge of river flows, construction access, management, and working with fluctuating river elevations, and coordination and management of commercial and recreational river navigational traffic. Jake has also managed the construction of several WISDOT structures projects, including most recently the ongoing Lone Rock Bridge project over the Wisconsin River. Lone Rock is WISDOT's first large bridge design build project. Let's give Jake a hand for being here. Thank you. And welcome to the fireside chat. I've always wanted to do a fireside chat. I've got my navy blue Jim Nance CBS jacket on for like the post-masters fireside chat. It's intentional. All right. And then we got Tom DeHaven here from HNTB. Tom brings over 40 years of bridge experience, including design, inspection, and construction of major bridge projects throughout the United States, including segmental concrete and cable stayed bridges. He has participated in traditional design build, and CMGC delivery methods for projects with construction values up to $800 million. Tom has managed design teams on numerous bridge projects over navigable waterways. Tom has inspected all aspects of bridge projects from materials testing, drainage, utilities, retaining walls, miscellaneous structures, roadways, foundations, pile driving, and substructure and superstructure construction. Wow. Due to his unique combination of design management and his extensive field experience, he frequently performs constructability reviews and quality assurance of bridge designs to develop designs and plan details with the lowest construction cost and maximum schedule efficiency. Welcome, Tom. Let's give him a hand. All right, first question is for Tom. From a designer's standpoint, how is design build different than design bid build?
First off, I want to say thank you for having us today. H&DB's been doing design build. We've done $25 billion worth of work, probably about the past 20 years. So H&TB has a lot of experience, not just me, but we have a whole practice that does this. A lot of things John shared, it was phenomenal information, by the way. We have that set up internally. We follow the practices, we understand the risk, we understand bringing on DBE consultants, and we strive for that. And so I'm going to focus our talk today about how this affects DBEs, because, I mean, there's a difference between design bid build and design build. Design bid build, a consultant like H&TB would be working for the owner. On design build, we're working directly for the contractor, and the contractor is great because you learn a lot. Engineers really should shut up and listen to contractors, because you learn a lot more when you listen to your contractors. You learn how the best way to do things, most efficient way, most economical way to do it. But they have high expectations, and they want you to get it done quickly. And so you need to focus on how can you meet their expectations of getting it done quickly and still maintain the quality you need to have, because that's where the risk and everything comes in. So you need to have the right balance of being honest with them. I mean, again, John pointed out, when you have great relationships between your engineer and your contractor, projects go well. It's even better when you have those same relationships with your owner. I've done a lot of these projects. I live in Minnesota, and they've done 17 design build projects, and they get better every time. And they've started with small ones. They've roadway projects, and they're getting bigger projects. And owners can do better well, or owners learn as they do, and they keep improving their process. So it's a shout out to really good owners who recognize that design build is a great tool to use. But as far as DBEs go, it's a fantastic opportunity for DBEs to get involved. H&TB, I reached out to our design build practice to make sure I was not going to overstate. They cannot tell me a single project we did not exceed our DBE goal on every project we've worked on. That's an internal thing. We hold ourselves standard, we hold ourselves to. We don't just sit there and say, well, if no one calls us, we made a good faith effort. No, that's BS. We actually go out and solicit firms. The boss I'm reporting to right now, Brian Swinson's talking to me all the time about, are we going to meet our DBE goal? What are we doing to reach it? I mean, are we being proactive? Are we trying to find ways to do it? H&TB has a mentoring program we've set up a number of years ago on projects, design bid build, but also design build, to actually encourage DBEs to work on these projects and to bring them in and give them, and train them or help them grow. We don't want you, if you're, a smaller engineering firm and you don't think you can have the structural engineering chops to do some things, we can work with you. We can help you get there. We want there to be strong DBs. We want these small firms to grow into bigger firms. That's part of our internal goal, and we want that. So DBEs give the opportunity where if you reach out to the engineering firms, we want to work with you. And a lot of times we're going to be reaching out to you and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? There was I did a design build project in Minnesota when the I-35W bridge collapsed. I was on the design build team that rebuilt the new one. And as fast-paced as that was, we were still reaching out to find firms to meet our DBE goal. First thing we had to do was a vegetation management plan, and I found a small tree service, basically, that was a certified DBE, and they had never worked on any DOT projects. And we brought them on, and they did a whole vegetation management plan, which, believe it or not, was a requirement. We couldn't even proceed with the project till we got we couldn't get NTP1 until we got this done. Brought them in, worked with them, trained them up. They worked closely with our contractor team, our surveyor team, and that's when we walked around. We did this whole vegetation management plan, and throughout the whole project, they turned that into something that since 2007, they've been doing that on a number of DOT projects. That's about 25% of their work now, and they had never done any type of work before. So there are definitely opportunities there. Contractors and engineers want DBs, and we want to meet our goals. We don't want to just say, we reached out, we didn't get any, we made a good faith effort, sorry. No, that's not where we're at. That's not where the contractor teams are at, or the firms. So don't think that, we don't want you. If you call, we'll answer the call, or we'll probably be calling you first and knocking down your door saying, have you thought about working on this project? And if you think it's even something you might want to do, please get in touch with us, because we want to have you involved.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to come back to you on contracts on the designer side with design build. But I'll ask Jake the same question from a contractor standpoint. How is design build different than design bid build?
I guess I want to qualify it to start with that when it gets to construction, design build is really no different than design bid build. Like we're still building the same project. We're still pouring concrete the same way, still paving the same way. So it's not, there's a lot of similarities. There's probably more similarities than there are differences. But on the contracting side, as far as like getting other subcontractors and DB firms involved, it's going to look pretty similar to a bid build job, like where the GC or prime contractor is going to be reaching out and soliciting quotes from subcontractors and DBs. There's going to be different phases of that. Like you're not going to have a full set of plans to bid on and price up, but we're going to give you a package to price up. That's like we think it's going to be X amount of paving or X amount of tree removal or X amount of lineal feet of silt fence or whatever the unit price or lineal feet of work might be. But give us a price on this range of quantity, and then we'll finalize the number and finalize our subcontract once we have closer to final design or 90% design. So there's kind of multiple phases of pricing and contract negotiation, I guess. It's not just turning a number the night before the letting day. But it also gives DB firms and subcontract firms like more opportunity to engage with us because we have a direct line with the designers on the proposal side before we even turn in a number to the owner, and even after you're selected prior to design to provide some input on constructability from lessons learned you've had on other projects instead of just getting a job after letting and saying, well, why did they do it this way? You have an opportunity to engage with us and maybe correct some of those things if possible. So that's how it's different. But like once the design's complete, it's pretty much the same. We're going to go build it the same way.
Thanks, Jake. So going back to the design side of things, if a DBE firm wanted to sub to a prime, how does that work? Is that where you have boilerplate provisions with the contractor and those are passed through to the DBE? Is the DBE a sub to the prime, or is the sub contracting with the contractor? How does that work?
Typically, all the engineering firms would come down through the prime consultant, and the DBEs would actually be sub-consultant. DBE engineering firms would be sub-consultants to the engineering firm, and our contract provisions would pass down. Obviously, some of those, we need to work with them and see what makes sense. But they're pretty standard, and especially the bigger firms that have been doing this for a while, we have terms we used before. The good thing is, when we've worked with these firms on other projects, like sometimes we take DBE firms we worked on design build projects, and now we bring them in and on the design build, and so you've already got a past history, you have contract terms that work. There's nothing new, there's nothing onerous about it. We're not trying to get you to sign away something you've never done before, whatever. We're very understanding, and we want to work with you. We want the terms to work out for both groups. So again, if there are issues, we want to understand it. One thing I didn't talk about earlier, I meant to bring up was, John talked about people are looking at design build for risk. Unfortunately, that's how people see it now. I'm too old. People don't understand design build really came out of, used to be what we called value engineering. DOT would put out a project, a contractor would look at it and say, well, that's silly. And then you'd say, we could do it this other way, we'll save a lot of money. And they would make a value engineering, they'd bring on a designer, and they would submit a value engineering on a project, and they'd share the cost with the owner would get some money back, and that contractor would get to work and do it better. Design build is supposed to be, we need a project that does this. Let's go to industry, let's ask the contractors to tell us the best way for this mousetrap to work, right? Contractors are really smarter than most people. They know what it takes to get it done economically, the smartest way. They know the innovations from other industries. That's where design build started. Design build was, yeah, we could do this way and it'd be okay, but is there a better way, a more cost-effective way? And that's where they went to this with bringing in people like Jake was talking about. You bring in the contractors and then their engineering team, and they found the best solution. Well, you could do it that way, but what we did elsewhere, what we did in Northwest Wisconsin was this. Oh my God, what a great solution. So the real benefit of design build is bringing in these teams early, working with hand in hand with the contractor, and come up with the best way to deliver a project. Deliver high quality, deliver it safely and economically. That's where design build really can shine for an owner. That's where you can see some really phenomenal results. So it's not all about risk transfer and having the lawyers in there and making it so all the risk goes to the contractor side of the table. Some people are pushing that, and that's happening somewhere. And, you know, to me, I always wonder why people say that, because when you push the risk over there, well, you're paying for it. I mean, all you did was raise some cost. And I don't know if maybe that's your solution or not. But really, design build is a great opportunity for you to come in, especially if you're a smaller firm and you've got great ideas, or you want to work with people and you can see how they do it. When you're working with some of these really good contractors, again, you learn so much. Just being around them in a room and hearing them discuss why they're doing their day-to-day operations, you learn things. When you're working with a big firm like HNTB and you're a small contractor and you see the policies and procedures we have in place for quality and the checks and things, you're like, wow, you know, I see why they do that. I mean, they have these phenomenal engineers. Why do they have these, you know, layer after layer after layer of quality checks? Well, it must be really important. So you get to learn from industry best, whether it's contractors or designers on these projects. So it's a great opportunity to really get a master's class working with these people who are really good, especially with the contractor side, because again, the things you can learn about the best way to do it, and then when you pursue future work, it's really phenomenally good. So as far as for a DBE consultant for design build, the contracts are pretty standard. They pass down through, and it should just, you know, there should be no reason for you to shy away from it. None of the contract provisions should ever make you say, ooh, I don't want that. I'm a fan of design build, by the way.
Yeah, and if you pick a good prime to work with, it's a guarantee that that prime is going to have a well thought out contract with the contractor as well. So I remember being a young engineer working for Brian Swenson. I think, Brian, you mentioned at one time that contractors don't take on risk, they bid risk. I remember that quote from when we built the Mitchell Interchange. We designed the Mitchell Interchange. So let's talk about Wisconsin a little bit. And Kramer is building the Lone Rock Bridges right now, the first large bridge reconstruction project done with design build. Maybe talk about some of the successes and some of the challenges that you've had to overcome.
Yeah, sure. And some of the successes come from challenges for certain on this project. I mean, any large river crossing, I would say the foundation design and foundation construction can be probably the highest risk and biggest challenge, because it's the least ability to get out there and gain information prior to the proposal going in, and some of that that legwork happens after the bid date, and you know, by the design build team, which is, you know, part of that risk of the design build process. So we've had some challenges with foundation and field design changes with the project, but also I think the design build model allowed us to really work through those things quickly and not stall. I mean, we've never stopped progress on the project. You know, we never said you never had to stop for a month to redesign anything. We worked through, you know, we could shift to another part of the project while we, you know, immediately got on board with our design team, immediately got the owner involved, the DOT involved. You know, issues that maybe in a bid build model would take maybe a month or two, we got done in maybe 2 or 3 days or a few weeks at most, and really worked through those changes. So the challenges turned into successes, I think. I think one of the biggest challenge that we've been working with the department on, trying to figure out the best way to conduct like environmental permitting with design build, because it's a little bit, because obviously the DOT has to work with outside agencies like the DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, especially on a river crossing. There's a exponential amount of other outside agencies that get involved once you get into the waterways of the United States, and they're not all on the same page with how design build works, and I mean, they're used to seeing a final set of plans, issuing a final permit, and you know, prior to construction even starting, and design build's more of an incremental approach. So we're working through that and trying to help offer as much input as we can with the DOT and how to deal with that on the new program that they're launching right now in Wisconsin. So that's probably the biggest challenge, I would say, and I think some of the department would probably agree with that if you ask them as well. But all in all, I feel like it's been a good project. I feel like everybody involved in it's been pleased with how it's gone, and yeah, it's going well.
One more quick question for you relative to Lone Rock and any other projects in the state. Can you talk about how you've used DBEs on these projects?
Yeah. So I mean, this project in rural Southwest Wisconsin, the DB goal in the project is 5%, and that's and we met that goal at proposal time, and we're still above the goal now. I think we're at roughly 5.5% of the overall contract value. The overall construction and design contract value is roughly $37 million. So 5.5% of that is the DB firms, and we're using like Arbor Green as our landscaping subcontractor. Fishbach Trucking is involved in the project on the earthwork and grading side. WD3 is supplying all of our piling. They're a new DB supplier that's out of Illinois. That's new to Wisconsin. Baseline Rebar is our rebar supplier. Aura Fabricators is our. I mean, so there's a handful of good firms. Modern Crane Service is another crane service that's providing a service to the project. So it's not only just subcontractors, it's suppliers, it's trucking firms, and that's usually and there's changes throughout the project that require us to reach out to new. I mean, even after a year into the project, something comes up where we reach out to a new firm. Our first call are to the DBEs in our network. Because we want to make sure we're achieving our goals and exceeding our goals. So it's going well in as far as DB involvement for sure.
Quick round of applause for that. Thanks, Jake. How are we doing on time?
Good.
Okay.
10 minutes.
We got 10, okay. Getting a little technical here. Tom, can you share with the group the different kinds of design build delivery methods?
Right, so, design build is what they call alternative delivery. And then under design build, there is what they call traditional design build, where an owner says, I want a design build project, and a team of a contractor and a engineering firm come together and they submit a proposal. There are advancements to that. There are what's now really considered progressive design build. That's a variation where the owner says, you know what, I really want to have more involvement in the design process of this, and also how we get to the final price. And so, I want to still select a team. I still want to select a contractor team and have them with a contract of an engineer underneath them. But I want to work closely with them and as we develop the project and as we develop the price and make sure this is going to meet my goals, but also my budget and my schedule. Sometimes when you go traditional design build, you say, give me a project from A to B, and then you're crossing your fingers that the price is going to come in. That's something within your budget. And so there are some large projects right now where the owner is trying to really work with it's similar to CMGC, but it's different because on CMGC, the owner has a contract with the engineer, and then the owner has a contract with the contractor, and there's no connection there. Progressive design build is, the owner still has a contract with the contractor, and the contractor has a contract to the engineering firm. It's definitely got advantages in some markets. It's something that not everyone has the legislation that allows them to do it, but is definitely being seen as a future. There are a lot of big projects doing it right now, and we're trying to make sure we understand all the implications, because nothing's perfect. I mean, when Jake was talking about, Lone Rock, I mean, I'm glad they're having some small challenges, because that points out the areas we can improve. So I'm sure the next design build WSDOT does is going to be even better, because they're going to refine these things. I mean, every state I've worked in that's been a success, owners take these small challenges and refine it for the next one. So as far as the contracting stuff, really, I think everything you're going to see right here, right now, is traditional design build. I don't think WSDOT has the legislation for progressive yet. It might be. MnDOT, I know, does not. But they are going to be looking at, the Blatnick Bridge up in Superior over to, Duluth, yeah. Superior's big, Duluth not so much. They had considered whether they wanted to go progressive there. And then the DOT, MnDOT's lead, they decided They couldn't get through the legislature to approve it, but they are considering adding it for future. They're trying to talk to the legislature about adding that as another tool in the toolkit for them. But when John talked earlier about DBEs need to be able to work within multiple interstates, from one state to another, we need to understand, is that allowed? Especially a large project like that, which spans 2 states, there's not enough DBEs in Minnesota to handle a project that size. And so, obviously, WISDOT, I know, is well ahead of this. I'm sure WISDOT is working with MnDOT to, how can we make sure that the DBE companies and firms in Wisconsin can work on a project like that. I'm sure that those conversations are going on because I've worked with WISDOT since the 90s. And they're always very smart and ahead of things. But we need to make sure, and if you're a DB, you need to be reaching out, like, are we allowed to work on this? How can we be sure that our DB certification here is going to be accepted, on a project like that? Because again, it's $1 billion project. There's going to be enough work there that really we need to make sure that we are, giving opportunity to the DB folks. So you asked me about, the different types of DB design build. It's really traditional or progressive of the two.
Yeah, and just in Wisconsin, the way our design build legislation is written, progressive design build and CMGC is not allowed, but best value, fixed price variable scope is allowed, or a low bid type of approach. So yeah, but maybe in the future, progressive and CMGC will start here in Wisconsin, maybe progressive in Minnesota as well. But thank you for that walkthrough.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Back to Jake. Contractor's viewpoint. How do you define success in a design build project? How do you become successful delivering it?
I mean, the keys to success in a design build project are no different than any other project. It takes communication, it takes partnering with your owner and with all parties involved, and all stakeholders really. I think the difference in design build is that all those stakeholders are working on a more condensed time frame, so their overlap and relationship with and interaction with each other is greater than maybe on a bid build job where that timeline is stretched out and maybe you don't get the interaction with the designers or interaction with the permitting or the real estate acquisition. And some design build projects, the DB team might be involved with even the real estate part of it. So I mean, to be successful, the communication is the key, right? Like, I mean, we have a lot of meetings on design build projects, so it seems like it's really fast paced. But just staying organized, staying in contact with everybody. And I mean, what I would measure as a success of it is, you're going to have your challenges, you're going to have your stumbles and your failures like every other project. It's like design build does not solve all of that, or it doesn't mean you're not going to have that. But if you can walk away from the project and having built a better relationship with the DOT and with your design firm that you're working with, your subcontractors, that's really what I measure as success on it. And I mean, ultimately, we're trying to use this as a delivery method to make the funds coming in, in the state and coming into the state that are going to be building projects more efficient, so we can get more improvement with fewer dollars. And I think design build's a great tool for that. And so, yeah.
And we were talking yesterday about Lone Rock as an example. Like what would have been the hypothetical schedule if it went design bid build, and what's the schedule going to be design build?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a couple other folks in the room I can see with the DOT that can definitely speak more specifics on that. But I believe that if it had not gone design build, it would have been like 2027 would have been completion date, and we'll complete construction later this year. So, yeah, it's probably at least a 2-year savings on construction and overall 2-year savings on the overall project as well.
Wow.
So,
congrats to DOT for saving 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you mentioned communication, and on the design side, it's the same thing. Like, you got to collaborate and work well as a team.
Right, and Jake's not giving Kramer near enough credit because they've done 40 of these design builds across the U.S. They're known for being one of the best national contractors, working well with owners and delivering the project. Quite honestly, there are some big contractors out there who they take a project and they want extras. They want, how can we blame the owner for this? How can we turn around and turn it the owner's fault? And how can we monetize this contract? And working with those is no fun. I've done that. And when you get a chance to see someone like Kramer doing Lone Rock, whatever, they're actually trying to build a relationship with WISDOT and the owners that they can do future projects. That's what you want. You want to have somebody that when you walk away from this job, that's my success. They want to work for you again, and you want to work with them again. And that's where was the key. I mean, I'm glad that Kramer's represented here, especially with somebody like Jake who's so good. That's what you're looking for. That's going to drive your success. When you have a contractor team and an engineer, but the contracting team that really wants to have safety, quality, and work with you again, you're going to get a successful project. And if I was an owner, that's exactly who I'd be. I mean, the quality-based selection we were talking about earlier, that's where you get it. If you can actually, evaluate not just price, but also, are they going to deliver? How did they deliver for past owners? Are they going to give you the quality? Are they going to do it safely? Are they going to not, creatively make up, things, to blame it back on the owner for extras? Monetize as one project. You need to avoid the mercenary people and look for the folks that have a history across the country of doing this well.
Well said. We have a few minutes for Q&A. Dwayne.
How, for the engineering firms, how has your business evolved? Thank you. For engineering firms, how has your business evolved with design build? What new things have you had to do or have come about because of design build? And if you could speak to finances.
So interestingly, I was watching the presentation John did. I'm like, yep. Especially the things he showed there at the end. Everyone, we went into it. We didn't really understand it. We didn't understand the business side. You were exactly at the contracting side, and there were so many hard lessons learned. We didn't understand where the risk was. We didn't understand how to provide these services without losing our shorts. We didn't understand about the projects get bigger and bigger, about the insurance requirements and stuff. So that's why you need the project-specific ones, the owner provided. And there are firms who did not last. I mean, it put them out of business. And then there are other firms who embraced it. And again, working with HNTB, I mean, we're 119 years we've been in business, but we have a design build practice. That's all they focus on. And as much as we have the technical guys like me, we have probably two for every one of me who manages our work and makes sure we do it right. Our go, no-go process is the most intense I've ever seen. Since I've been here, we've turned down 2 projects I was sure I could have won. And they said, you might win it, but we don't want it. And it was amazing when we have the adults in the room from a contracting and risk management side telling me, that's not a project we want to do. Yes, you might win it, but the risk or the money we're going to lose on it is not good. And from an engineer, I'm like, but I can win. It's always about me wanting to win. And so you really need smart business people and smart contracting people to be in leadership to guide you through. And if you're a consulting firm, that's hard to have. I mean, thank goodness HNTB does, because I'm so glad they told me no on 2 projects now. I was mad at the time, but now I'm happy with it.
Brian, did you have a question? Here you go.
Can you walk me through some of the, as a DB, you're looking at a design build project, and there may be several teams going after it, and you don't have complete plans. So the 2 obstacles I've seen are going after the project and wanting to be on multiple teams instead of choosing to be on one team or being locked into one team. And my experience with it is once you let a number out of your mouth, that's the highest number that's ever discussed. So how do you, as a DBE, navigate those types of things and stay friends with the contractor and the owner? How have you seen that work? And by the way, I hated the old Lone Rock Bridge, so thanks.
That's a good question. I guess I'll just qualify. Like, this is actually my first design build project with Kramer. So Kramer has done a lot of these, or a lot of alternative delivery and design build. So we're pretty familiar with the situation just described. And yeah, I mean, there's when we're going to team selection, there might be a couple firms that want to be on board with just us, and most of them are going to give numbers to probably every team. Or, like, for instance, in the one of our jobs, there ended up only being 2 teams that were selected, you know. So, I mean, I'm sure there was, I guess I don't know for certain, but I'm sure the DB firms gave numbers to both teams. And it's a business, right? We understand that you have to do what's best for your company. I mean, it goes both. There's multiple ways to go about it. I mean, you can team up with just this one team, or you can give out numbers to multiple teams. And like you said, like the number you give at proposal time might be different than the number that you guys end up being under contract for once the design is complete and you actually know what the quantities are and stuff. And there's different ways you can look at going about it. I mean, 'cause like our contract with the owner is lump sum, so we're only getting paid a single dollar amount at the end of the day, unless things change and there's things added or subtracted from the project, but it's not a unit price project for us. But we still contract with most of our, unless some certain firms want to go lump sum or take on some risk themselves, you can kind of choose your path on that. But if you want to just contract the conventional unit price, that's most of our subcontractors are unit price, and instead of the DOT measuring that, we're measuring those quantities and agreeing on those quantities with our contractors. And if the scope grows, so the scope declines, and that means your price has to change, at least from Kramer's perspective. I can't speak for all of our other competitors out there, but we're definitely going to come back to the table and renegotiate what's the best price for, like, we want to make sure we're not, I guess for lack of a better term, screwing over our subcontractors. We want to make sure you're whole. We don't want to have you walk away from the project with a bad taste in your mouth about design build, because it's no different than, we want the program to be successful, not only for the DOT, but also for everybody involved that works with us. There's a number of examples even just on this project where we've revisited pricing with our subcontractors and suppliers to make sure that they're still whole for the project, even though their scope grew or subtracted or what have you. So.
All right, that's all the time we have for the presentation. If you have questions, please feel free to come up afterwards. I believe that you guys can hang around for a while. We do have yellow or white sheets, surveys on the presentation that we'd like you to fill out and pass to Mino, who's in the back of the room. Before you leave, though, let's give John, Tom, Andy, and Jake a round of applause. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.